Let's see. Yes, I have microphone access. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Michael Desjardins. I manage employee wellness at Griffin. I'm also responsible for the programming that comes out of our Center for Healthy Living, which is kind of what we call the facility that you're in. In this facility, those of you that may have seen this area or have been around, we have this for a meeting space, and we also do a lot of chef demonstrations, cooking events. In this particular demonstration, this is more of like a pure demo where you guys are watching and getting an educational talk from one of our registered dietitians, who I'm going to introduce in a second. There are other times where we have a smaller crowd where you actually cook with us. So we give you aprons and knives and cut gloves, and you actually participate in some of the preparatory work that we do to put the dish together. So tonight we are going to be creating a chicken Freekah skillet, and the title of this was really about healthy grains. I have to admit, before coming to Griffin, I didn't know what Freekah was. People say, get your Freekah on. I'm like, what? It's Freekah, right? But all jokes aside, at the hospital, and again, I'll introduce our chef here, we do a lot with farro and barley and quinoa and Freekah. And it's actually easier to get than it used to be. It used to be a little bit of a harder grain to find. Now you can find it just about anywhere if you look in the right spot. So joining me this evening is Becca Cretella. She's one of our registered dietitians that works at Griffin. She sees people in the outpatient setting, fortunately, Griffin accepts all types of insurances. So if you were worried about, oh God, how much does it cost to see an RD? Most of the insurances cover it at a pretty successful rate. But she sees people in the outpatient arena. And then, of course, we have Chef Mike Rizzio here with us tonight, who works at Griffin, part of our culinary team, and he's going to be kind of the lead show for us, doing all the presentation this evening. Before we get started, just a quick little talk about the Center for Healthy Living. So the goal here is to reach out to the community, to provide education, and to let people know and educate them on, there are a lot of chronic diseases out there. We have CHF, we have COPD, we have asthma, we have diabetes, and a lot of those things can be curtailed and fought with proper nutrition. There's so many people that just go to the doctor, they're pre-diabetic, diabetic, and right away, where's my metformin? Where's my GLP medicine? And, the GLP medicines are the fad right now. Everyone's on them. They're trying to lose weight. But really, you really need some lifestyle change in that to really make that count. Because when you come off those meds, all the research now is suggesting in 4 months, the weight's coming back on. So what we're trying to do with our physicians now is say to them, hey, listen, if you have patients that are coming in looking for these GLP-1 medications, why don't we get them on a track of lifestyle change? So let's make a referral to a registered dietitian. Let's get them into an exercise program with one of our EPs, exercise physiologists. And also there's free programming that we do here all the time. This is an example of one of them. So just to give you an idea of what we're trying to do at Griffin to really promote a healthier community. So tonight's event is being recorded for our, we have a Griffin Health YouTube account. So if someone wanted to go back and look at this, they can easily just go onto YouTube, put in Griffin Health, and you'll see some of the videos that we have saved there, okay? The last person on our team today is Bill. Bill is our freelance photographer here that's going to be taking some images. Bill, he will take some shots. If anyone does not want to be in the pictures, we will not use them. If he does have some images, he will ask you to sign just a release that says it's okay to use you. But rest assured, we will not put you in anything that you don't want to be in. So, and we will not sell these on social media. So, yes, of course. The rate is pretty high now. I checked before I started this. No. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to let Mike start going here, and then. I'm sorry, Becca, apologize, Becca. She is going to lead the presentation first, and then Chef Mike will chime in. All right? Thank you.
Hello? I'll just talk really loud. Can I talk really loud?
Go ahead, keep going. We'll figure it out.
Is this PowerPoint? I'm hoping.
He's going to load your presentation
Okay.
up, and he asked that you use this for now, if that's okay with you.
Hello. I am Becca, as Mike said. Today we're going to be talking about whole grains.
So what is a whole grain? So a whole grain is that it's everything that was originally part of the grain. It just wasn't taken away. So that includes bran, endosperm, and the germ. Bill was talking about the germ earlier. What do you put the germ in, Bill? What do you put the germ in, you said? Wheat germ? The wheat germ? What did you put it in, you said? Bill, what did you put the wheat germ in?
In bean salad.
So he's just adding more
Bean salad
protein.
with feta cheese.
Exactly. You could add it to anything. So bran is the fiber-filled outer layer with 8 vitamins and minerals. The endosperm is the inside, so that's the refined grain part. It's a starchy carbohydrate. It's in the middle with some protein and vitamins. So there's a little bit of protein in the middle, and then the small part is the germ. So that's the nutrient-packed core. So it also has 8 vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and healthy fats. So that part has the healthy fats in it. So there's a lot of type of whole grains. Oh, hopefully soon. I'm like, wait, maybe I should slow down. So I could read these to you. So there's whole grain barley, whole rye, whole sorghum, whole wheat. Sweet. Okay. And then there's quinoa, freekah, buckwheat, amaranth, wild rice, brown rice, black rice, red rice, bulgur, corn, millet, and oats. So there's a lot of options. Okay, they said. They're a good group. They let me know. So I'm just going to touch on a few of these ones. They're more common, and then one of them we're going to be cooking with today. So this is quinoa. So in about a cup of quinoa, there's 222 calories, 8 grams of protein, which is pretty good. It's about, I would say that's more than a yogurt, depending on the yogurt. There's good fat in there. There's 4 grams. There is carbs, but along with the fiber in here, there's 5 grams. So that's a good fiber food with the 5 grams. That's going to help digest our food more easily or longer. So with diabetes, we want to try to get more fiber and protein with our carbohydrates because it helps slow absorption of everything. The star ingredient, Freekah. So this is 100 grams. I think it's about a cup of cooked Freekah with what I was trying to figure out with the food labels we had. But there's more carbs in this one. That's so loud. But there's more fiber in it too. So you kind of want to look at these grains. You want to add them in. And having a large variety of food is also good. They say eat the rainbow for a reason. I think is working. Okay. So farro is another one. Has anyone cooked with farro? Sweet. Okay. In a half a cup. This one's uncooked. It's about 150 calories. This one has 7 to 8 grams of fiber and 1 gram of sugar. So if you're looking for something that has less carbs in it, this might be a better idea. So why are whole grains important? With whole grains, it helps lower cholesterol, provides fiber, vitamins, and minerals, supports regularity, and promotes fullness. So what I mean by regularity is bowel movements, right, guys? We want to be as regular as we can because constipation happens, bowel obstructions, it's not fun. So adding fiber in can help us keep regular and keep us feeling good. So this is what your plate should look like. It's not always going to look exactly like this, but if we have the components, we're doing good. I just wanted to touch on the whole grains part of it, though. At least half our grains should be whole. I know it's not as easy as it is to say, but just trying new things and adding different variety can be helpful. So again, whole grains are rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Just to name a few, iron, zinc, B vitamins. Many whole grains contain considerable amounts of protein, as you saw in our last slides. they could have up to like 10 grams of protein.
Becca, would you do me a favor? Can you go back to the Harvard plate?
Yeah.
Slide? So those of you who remember the old pyramid where we used to look at the cereals and,
Mhm.
and things. So a lot of the curriculum we use is through a Health Meets Food, which is developed through Tulane University. I used to be George Washington, and you know we partner with a big group out in California called the Teaching Kitchen Collaborative. It was started by David Eisenberg, who is a Harvard doctor, works at the public school of health, but he's also a chef. So the Teaching Kitchen Collaborative works with us on curriculum and ideas for broadcasting, and this is one of their key features. And all of the work they do with nutrition for children, for adults, they focus on this healthy eating plate. I just wanted to highlight that because, you know, it's different. If you look at the amount of vegetables that they're recommending, fruits, whole grains, and protein, you know, we always fail to really truly understand portion sizes and what have you, the size of your fist versus a baseball and
Yes,
things like that.
yeah.
But this is super important because we got rid of the other pyramid and we learned from that. And I remember seeing the pyramid inverted for a short term, but now that's what we're sticking with.
Yeah.
Oh, they lost that presentation. I'll let Josh know, but you can continue. Oh, there it is. It's fading. He's getting fancy now.
Ooh.
Josh, you killer guy, I'll tell you. All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
So like I said before, diets rich in fiber have been shown to reduce cholesterol levels. So unfortunately, a lot with cholesterol, it's more of genetics than the food you're eating, in my opinion. But eating whole grains, working out can help lower your cholesterol if you're predisposed to having higher cholesterol. It also helps blood sugars and then again, promote regularity. So what to look for when you're looking for whole grains? The ingredients on a food label are listed from the greatest amount to the least amount. So you want one of those first ingredients to be whole grain because that means the most in that ingredient is the whole grain. And these are things to look for too. So you want to look for 100% whole grains, high fiber, because decoding a lot what they put on their food labels, you got to watch what to look for. But organic is one that I like to look at, and it's at least 95% of the ingredients are certified organic. So they don't use pesticides or other chemicals. So how to read a food label. So what we're kind of looking for, we want to look at the portion size. So say you have, I hate the 2/3 because of the fractions. Say this is a half a cup and you double it and you have a cup. You want to double the carbohydrates in there. You want to double the fiber. You want to double everything in there because that's what you're going to be consuming. Say you eat half of it, then you want to cut it in half. And don't really look too much at those percentages. Those are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, and that's not the same for everybody. So how to incorporate whole grains into your diet. So oatmeal with fruit, brown rice with ground chicken and vegetables, so a grain bowl, whole grain crackers with hummus. Use wild rice, wild rice and barley in soups. So instead of the white rice, using barley and even Freekah, farro, these things instead to give it a try. And then replacing white bread with whole wheat bread or Ezekiel bread. You're shaking your head. You like Ezekiel bread? It's good. That's fair. That's fair. It's not too cheap to eat healthy. And tips for adding whole grains to your diet. Again, start slow. So being regular, adding fiber into our diet, adding too much too quickly can also not be good. So adding like a high fiber grain once a day, gradually getting up to the point where you're getting more fiber. And try something new. Look, like Freekah, we're going to learn a recipe today. You're going to be able to take that recipe home, give it a try, and then look for new recipes you want to try. Any questions? Yes.
The whole grain bread, that little label that comes on the bread, is that still effective? I mean, the one to look for, you know, it looks like a little stamp.
You can, but then I would look at the ingredients, like a double check, you know. Yeah. Any other questions? You can still ask me throughout, but put a rest. I think it's all you, Mike.
And I would advance that one more slide. I don't see it on the thing. That's all right. Josh is handling it. Hey, let me make sure Josh is good. Josh, are we good?
While they're talking, I'll ask you a question. Are you familiar with the process of converting starch into resistant starch?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good, buddy.
Good.
All right.
All right. So we're doing a chicken and Freekah skillet. So the first part about this is like completely, we can flow with different grains and different proteins. So if you try Freekah and you don't like it, everything is interchangeable. If you want to add more veggies, different flavors. If we don't like lemon and you want to do a different kind of citrus, everything can be changed to what your palate likes, right? So this is just kind of a base recipe for what we're doing today. But if we don't like oregano, you like basil, everything is interchangeable. So that's the first part to when you go home, don't be overwhelmed by saying, I don't know if I like that grain, or I want to do a fish instead of, right? The second part is we're going to try to make this kind of a one-pot dish. It'll end up being two, really, but and out of that, you'll be able to get a lot of different meals. So even though we're doing a skillet, that can also be turned into a cold salad with the ingredients that we're using. So you can put it in a microwave container, take it to work, heat it up one day. The next day, add some greens, right? Eat it cold, you know. And then on the final days where you're like, I don't know if I should be eating this, you know, and that kind of thing. Like, is it too old? We can turn it into a soup, right? And make a chicken soup out of the chicken, add some veggies, and then, like Becca said, we can take whatever grains we're using and add it right at the end, you know. So it's a one pot dish that can be used over many days and many meals, and it's also versatile to be not the same thing every day. So on Sunday we can prep it out, and on Thursday we can still have a dish that's using all the ingredients but in a different way. So today we're going to be using chicken thighs. So the ones that I have today are going to be boneless, skinless. But if you like bone-in, if you like the skin, and you want that little crispy texture, then by all means you can use those. If you want to use chicken breasts, same thing. So today we have 4 about 8-ounce chicken thighs. And we're doing it in a cast iron skillet that I like to get pretty hot. I'll just season the chicken with just a little bit of salt and pepper. When you hear the hiss, we know the pan's hot. That's going to create a little of the Maillard reaction, which is going to create a little bit of the crunchy bits that everybody likes.
Mike, would you mention what other oil you can do this with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, while necessarily I wouldn't use olive oil for like the frying at a hot temperature, they use sunflower oil, safflower oil, avocado oil, all healthier alternatives than a vegetable or soybean, which we're trying to stay away from those fats and oils to an avocado or something. Those oils also have a higher smoke point. So if you've ever fried or you've ever cooked something very hot with olive oil and you get kind of a sour taste, it's because the oil actually burns. So that creates a little bit of that sourness.
So Mike, if I'm understanding right, some oils have a higher
Smoke point is what we call them.
which refers to you being able to fry with them and
Correct.
they tolerate heat better.
Correct. And they're not an unsaturated fat, right?
Correct.
That we're compared to a soybean oil, which is less healthier than a natural oil, if you will. This is actually a blend of avocado oil and just a little bit of extra virgin. right? So that's the other thing that we can do there is 90% would be a higher smoke point, and then the olive oil is just to help with the flavor. And then it's just about being mindful and being understanding about how hot the pan is, being able to take it off, and if you see smoke, it's too hot, right? So, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, I think with any fats, it's really just about the amount that you're using. Some people think that, oh, if in a pan, I have to put a lot of oil if I want to get a nice sear, and that's not necessarily true. It's one of the reasons why we're using a cast iron pan. The metal itself gets nice and hot, it holds heat. So if you've ever put a cold or even a room temperature piece of meat into a pan, you hear the sizzle and then it comes way down and you don't hear the sizzle anymore. It's because the pan itself isn't retaining the heat, right? So a little bit of oil in a pan that is hot enough or appropriate, it will retain the heat, and you don't have to use a lot of fat to keep it off the pan, if you will. Yeah, so that's really dependent on where the product comes from. So extra virgin olive oil is defined by the specific type of olives, right? And where they come from, and that is really what defines it. Then olive oil can still be from the olives, but maybe it's a second press of the olives when they make it, right? Or it's a combination of some different oils, and that's where looking at the ingredients list is definitely important.
And Mike, with the Mediterranean diet that everyone hears so much about, they're big on using olive oil and omega-3s and their fishes and things like that. But
Absolutely.
You've got your olive oil, extra virgin, a little bit lighter, you've got the heavier one. There is a certain flavor profile you're looking for, whether we mix it with salad or not. But just to go back to what he said with sauteing and frying, you don't want to use olive oil. You want to stick with something that has a higher smoke.
I think the best way to describe it is like an extra virgin or a very high quality oil, extra virgin olive oil, I would use for like a salad dressing, or when I'm plating something, if I want to drizzle a little oil, extra virgin would be used for that. It wouldn't necessarily be used for cooking. And I'm not saying that people don't use it for cooking, but again, it's just about being like mindful of the pan, the cooking temperature, and things like that. So chicken thighs take a little while, depending on the thickness. You can always get a thermometer. We're cooking chicken to 165 degrees internally. Okay. With the cooking process and carrying over cooking and temperature, I would cook it, to about 155 to 160 degrees, making sure that I'm resting the piece of meat. And then I would check it after like 10 minutes of cooking time, resting time, and let that temperature come up to 165. That's pretty much the standard. So we're just looking for a little color on the chicken thighs. The part that I would put down, that initial sear, I would let it go for a few more, probably four, even 5 minutes, depending on if you like that crust, and if you don't, flipping it every 2 to 3 minutes, in a medium pan or so. And this is just chicken thighs, a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of the oil, just trying to get some color on the chicken, because we're going to finish it into the oven. You could finish it on the stove top, just covered, or preheat an oven 350 degrees and kind of walk away from it for a few minutes. And you'll see when we get into this how easy and flexible the recipe is. So that was just a few minutes in the pan. In the bottom of the pan here, it's what we call fond. It's all the little crispy bits. There's a lot of flavor that can be brought into the dish. Okay, so it was on a hot flame. I'm taking it off in the cast iron pan. Like I said, there's still a lot of heat there. So I will add a couple tablespoons of oil. The dish we're making, this specifically what I'm doing in front of me, is going to feed about 5 people total. So we have a little bit of garlic. And you have the recipe in front of you, but it really is what your flavor palette is. If you like garlic and you really like that flavor, then you can put a little bit more. If you don't like it, you can completely omit it. right? And or you can also change. I'm going to use granulated garlic. You know, it's a lighter flavor. It doesn't whack you in the mouth as much as the fresh. So we can just season as we go, and that's the other part. As we're cooking and as we're developing flavors and adding layers, new ingredients, season as you go. A little bit of salt and pepper in the beginning. When you add the next thing, continue to season, continue to season. So we have a little bit of garlic, a little crushed red pepper. And we're just going to kind of let that garlic brown up a little bit. Your nose will tell you garlic. So as you're cooking it and you smell that nuttiness, as soon as that is when I would add the Freekah. So Freekah, if you see here, this is kind of the whole grain. So it's a very shell. It's kind of a hard shell. It's definitely more, if you guys want to pass that around, you can kind of just check it out and see what that looks like. It's definitely a whole shell grain. It takes a lot of cooking, or I should say it can withstand a lot of cooking. So if you're using vegetable stock or chicken stock, or even some sort of fish stock and things like that, or just plain water, lots of water can go in. You can cook it for a long time. It's still gonna have that bite. So our garlic and the crushed red peppers. Are just nice and browned. And I have the Freekah that we're gonna add in. Now, one of the things with these whole grains, because they do take a while to cook, I will keep one of these deli containers in my fridge of it cooked. So I'll take a big batch. I'll just make a bit, like one pot of 3 different grains one time a week. And then I'll just build dishes, you know. And I'm kind of very plain. So if I have some veggies and I have a protein, I'll just grab, build them all up. Build all different dishes. You can add different herbs. You can add different sauces so that you're not eating the same thing every day. But we also don't have to spend hours and hours in the kitchen every single week. So our Freekah is in the pan. We're gonna let that toast a little bit. Again, you're gonna smell that nuttiness. So I would just stir it 3 to 4 minutes. You'll see it toast. You'll physically see it toast. If the pan is dry, as you can see down here, there's still this bit. Don't be afraid to use either a rubber spatula or even on a cast iron pan, you can use metal and just get into the pan and scrape it, because that's really all that flavor that is in the bottom of the pan adds a lot more flavor to the dish. This one is cooked. This specific one there is cooked. But I have the raw one up here so you guys can see it. I also have some barley cooked up here and some quinoa that you guys can come up, take a look if you want to just even feel what it, you know, by all means taste it to see if you like the texture. You know, a lot of the whole grains are kind of chewy. Quinoa, not so much. Quinoa, you know, and the best part about these are I like to just mix them all together too. You know, do Freekah, do a little bit of farro, do some quinoa. If you're making a rice pilaf at home, I really like using quinoa as a different texture instead of just like a white or just a brown rice by itself. Yeah. Right, and that's like. So my suggestion there would be, you know, is make that one batch. You know, when you do you know, even one of these, right? If we did a pint of quinoa or farro or Freekah or whatever, you know, any of the grains, if you just had kept, you know, keep this in the fridge, and then as you're making that rice pilaf, a couple tablespoons, you know, whatever, however the proportion that you want, So, you know, the way that I really try to approach the cooking portion is I don't want to be in the kitchen for a lot of hours, but when I am, I try to be productive. So I'll make a quart of any of the grains. I'll keep that in the fridge. And then the next meal that I'm cooking, I'll cook a different one with the intention of I'll have some leftovers that I'll keep for the next day or the next meal. And, you know, realistically, I don't like keeping anything 3 days, past 3 days, but there's no reason why, you know, 4 to 5 days that you could keep a whole grain. What's that? Yeah, right, depending, because there is the bacteria part that we have to worry about.
Meat and some vegetables are more prone to growing bacteria, where that's a grain, it's not as prone to growing as much as some other foods would.
Yeah. No, so I've actually got to the point where I toast all of my grains now. You know, even a white rice, if that's what you want, I would still toast it because it adds a next layer of flavor. So we have toasted this. Now it's the same process, even though this specific one is cooked. Same process. The raw I would put in, I would just toast it up nice. You can see kind of these little toasty bits in there. And what I have is I made a chicken stock. That could be a vegetable stock if you're doing seafood and you're into seafood stocks. Can all be used interchangeably. But I just have a chicken stock. And I will add liquid, and probably, depending on what grain, for Freekah it likes to take a lot of water in, a lot of liquid in, so I'll add it in 2 or 3 stages. Okay, so the first one is I just cover it. Then the second part is kind of the first digit on your index finger is a good rule of thumb there. So I would go half between the tip of the finger and the first digit on the second one. And what I mean by that is I've added the liquid. I'm going to let that reduce down. I'm going to add my second stage of liquid. And then at that point, I'm going to season with all the herbs, spices, and even protein that we're going to add in. Exactly. Yeah, very, very similar. You can definitely do it all at once, but I think that this adds just a layer of flavor, you know? The risotto, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
You just wanted to know if you made that ahead of time.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it goes. I take all my scraps when I'm using when I get proteins or vegetables. I'm in the kitchen. I take a freezer Ziploc bag. All of my scraps go into a Ziploc bag. Whether it's extra, you know, the chicken bones, the backbones of the chicken, any of that. When I get one of those gallon Ziploc bags full, then I take, you know, a stock pot like this, and I just all the veggies go in, the chicken goes in. Then I take them and I put them in quart containers, and I put them in the freezer. And then when I need them, I just take a quart out, however much you need, you know. And I think it's a good way. At the end of the day, it saves money too.
You can add your vegetable scraps to that too
100%.
in the freezer, like a gallon bag. I do that too. Like I'll cut up an onion and I'll put all the extra stuff in a Ziploc bag in the freezer.
Yeah. So the base celery, onion, carrots would be the very basic minimum for those. But if you wanted to do parsnips or turnip scraps or even any of the root vegetables, any of the other root vegetables, you can definitely add them into your stocks. So as you can see, this just kind of thickens up a little bit, like some of the natural starches. So at this point, I'm going to add kind of the rest of the flavors, the herbs. We have some lemon zest, which I'm personally a big fan of lemon. We're using a little coriander today. And you guys have the recipe based on, how much specific, like, Freekah we're using gives coriander. But like I said, if you don't like those flavors, make your own flavors. There's no wrong. It really goes by your taste buds, your palate, and what you guys like. Cilantro seed, yeah. definitely different flavors. Coriander is definitely more like a punch in the mouth. But yeah, anything. Or we're using oregano and some parsley today. So in the Freekah, I added lemon zest. I'm going to add some golden raisins. I'm going to go ahead and season for the second time here. Just a little bit of salt and pepper. You can omit that completely. You can use a low sodium seasoning, like a Mrs. Dash or something like that, if you're being mindful. We're going to add a little bit of fresh herbs, parsley, oregano. And this is when I'll add my second batch. Now, today, I'm going to be putting it into the oven. So, what I'm going to do, I just take those chicken thighs that we seared off, just kind of nestle them right in. And as you can see, the boiling kind of settled down. So that gives me some time to make the relish, the next part of this. Now, we're going to make the relish, we're going to top it, we're going to put it into the oven, and at that point, it's really just about, time and temperature. So as long as you know that the chicken is cooked, if you like the cheese really melty, put it under the broiler for a few minutes, get it all nice and kind of crispy and everything. So the relish, let's see.
I won't tell you, we tried this fish at the hospital, and the relish was amazing. It really made a good part of the flavor profile of this dish.
I really like the relish is definitely the highlight part of this. Also, I really enjoy the acid, adding just a little bit of acid at the end of any dish, especially with a whole grain, because it is like a filling starch. That acid kind of cuts down on, I guess, the heaviness part of it. So, lemons. So that's the star of the show for this relish. This might look intimidating if you've never done it before, but I promise it's not. The first, I'm just going to whack off the two ends of the lemons, and I take the knife and just follow the contour of the lemon. The first cut is the most important one, and if you mess it up, it's not really a big deal. So, as you can see, I got a little bit of the lemon itself, and I didn't just take the rind. But now you can see the natural curvature on the lemon and how much rind is there. So all you have to do is take your knife and just follow that white line. See if I can do this the way you guys can see it, but it would be this, and you just follow. And that's how we're taking all the rind.
You take more of the citrus than you do the
Well, right, exactly. I'm trying to leave as much citrus as possible, And then what we're also going to do here is we're going to segment the lemon, which just means all the veins. See if you can see this. All the veins, if you can see how I left a little bit there. But there's veins, and I just cut on the inside of each of the veins, and then you get this nice little segment. Now, the lemons that I'm using are seedless lemons. So, if you're not patient, you can absolutely just chop this up, right? As long it's going to have a little bit of bitterness, but it's not going to ruin, the dish by any means. If you don't like lemons, you can use limes, you can use oranges, whatever your palate wants, or whatever you're in the mood for that day. Or you can do a combination of all of them. Yeah. So, and then I will also take the lemon, once I have it all, each segment is out of it, I really like to just add right into the dish as it's cooking there, because I really enjoy the lemon.
So as he's you shouldn't be afraid to experiment. You know, when you get a new recipe, you try it out, you can tailor it, twist it. You know, we want to encourage creativity when people are cooking on their own. Those of you that have spouses, you know, I'm guilty of it with my wife. I have my wife and 2 kids at home. We try to get a little creative now and again, but there's always the fear that our daughter or son's going to go, "Bill, what did you eat?" And you know, back in the day, my mother was like, "It's on the table, you eat it. If you don't want it, that's it." You know, and very rarely after the first time I got I'm going to eat whatever's on the table. But you know, especially as your palate changes, try new things. You know, try to add. You know, the old guys was like, "Oh, eating healthy doesn't taste good." Well, no, you've got to know how to add a little zest to it. You know, like it's lemon zest, literally, combining the citrus with the heavier food. But you know, we always want to encourage some level of food. And it could be, you know, you're acting on emerald, or you're doing this with salt and pepper, whatever it is. Adding a little inspiration to the dishes goes in my way.
So I diced those up. I just cut the segments and then just cut them into little fingernail size cubes. Okay, so there's very, very simple there. And then the start of the relish. This is the second part of the second pan. I'm sorry. So a little bit of oil in the pan, medium heat. Pan's not super hot. We're gonna add fresh garlic. So we definitely don't want that to burn because this is gonna be like kind of the topping. And yeah, you know, we were talking about that before. I said, you know, my knives I definitely take care of very, very well. You know, so.
No, the other one. That one, the special one. So I said this to him. This is like one of his Japanese special knives. You know, I don't want to know how much it's cost, but there is something to be said about a sharp knife. I don't care what you're cooking. I'm cutting a pear for my son. It's so much better to just be able to go than it is to, it rolls off the pear, or I almost lose a hair off my knuckle and slip down, you know, but you know, knowing how to hold the knife a certain way and keeping your fingers protected, you know, the claw technique is what the chefs call it. It's always a skill that you gotta learn. But even the weight of this, it's balanced. I mean, but I hear you with the sharp knives. I always have my nose on the knife. I hit it a few times. My wife goes, "You really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then she doesn't like when I'm right, so she just walks away.
If I'm gonna cut myself, I want it to be with a sharp knife. So they make steels, right, which are like the rods, you know. And before and after each use, I just take it, and there's not really a wrong way. It's just match the angle, and you don't have to do it fast. It's more about pressure. So as you're using, I'll grab my steel, so I'll show you. So everybody's seen steel. Everybody probably has a steel at home. And really, it's not about it has to be a crazy angle or it has to be super shallow. It's just about matching the angle. So, and what I mean by that is when you're going to go slow with just a medium amount of pressure. And, you know, if I'm going 3 times this way, well, now on this side, or even away from you, because now we're touching, right? This is going to be this side. If I'm going away, I'm going to push away. And again, it's just about medium amount of pressure and just matching the angle, right? Because when you sharpen a knife or when you hone a knife, the blade, when you're pushing it to one side, the blade goes that way, and then the blade goes that way. So when you have a sharp knife, the blade is actually, or I'm sorry, a dull knife, the blade tip is actually bent over. So all we're doing is trying to get it back to that, you know, that angle. So quickly, garlic, there was a little bit of red pepper, and a little bit of the oil. I'm gonna add the lemons. These are the lemon segments. And at this point, there's probably enough heat in the pan where you don't have to put it back onto a flame. because this will all come together fairly quickly. So heat's off there. I'm gonna add my fresh herbs. Again, this is just parsley and oregano. Today we're using feta cheese. If you don't like feta, mozzarella is fine. Just chop it up or pull it apart. If you want to use burrata, you know, same thing, just pull it apart. If you want to use even just Parmesan, again, completely fine. So that goes in. This is off the heat. At this point, I'm just trying to warm up the feta. Not melt it, just get it so that when we put it into the dish, it's not piping cold. So at that point, if you guys can see through the smoke, it's almost like a risotto if you're cooking a risotto at home. So there is some liquid in the pan, you can see it around the edges here, but the middle, it's reduced down. The grain has started absorbing a lot of it. So that's also why I did that second pour of stock. And we're gonna finish this in the oven. So I'm gonna take some of the relish, put it on top of the chicken. Oven's at 350 degrees. This dish, just like this, 3 pieces of chicken, probably 2.5 cups of Freekah. I'm going into a 350 degree oven, probably 15-20 minutes, right around there. Again, I would use a thermometer just to double check. So this will go in. The magic of TV, right? The magic of TV, just like that. I'm a magician. So that comes out. This is a lot more portions, but again, this was 25 minutes, and really comes together quickly. At the end here, I like adding just a little more cheese, fresh, especially if we're gonna do like a family style thing. You're doing a party, and then I will just take a little bit of fresh herbs. Even though we put them in the dish and it's cooked itself in, you know, a little bit of fresh parsley, a little bit of basil, thyme, anything like that, fresh right on top, adds just another layer of flavor. And it's one of those things where it's a healthy dish and it doesn't have to taste like nothing. So this little garnish at the end really goes a long way. And that is pretty much it. What I will show you is the way we did this. There's still some liquid in the pan. And that part is completely okay. I would prefer a little bit of liquid instead of it just being completely dry. Because one of the things when you do cook with whole grains is if it dries out, it doesn't turn into that, like, if you've had paella, that nice crispy rice, the whole grains don't do that. The whole grains turn into like little pebbles. So having just a little bit of liquid in the bottom, if you're doing a one pot dish like this, is completely okay. And for me, it's actually preferred. So any questions along the way here? Today? Chef had just come up with the recipe, so that's what we did with chicken thighs. There was no reason really today specifically. If you like thighs, you can follow the same cooking procedure. You know, and again, you just use a thermometer. We're still cooking chicken to 165 degrees, but by all means, absolutely use 100%. And if what we have here is, you know, I just took the chicken thighs, I cut them on a bias and just left them as whole pieces. But if you want to just take it, chop everything up and just put it all in, you know, just like diced pieces of chicken, then same cooking procedure, just mix it all together. So for me, that's actually a lot easier, especially being on the go or trying to make meals ahead of time. Everything's done. I don't even have to bring a knife. when I'm packing this up for lunch, you know, or I'm serving it. Nobody needs a knife, you know. So again, it's kind of like, are you doing a party where you want it to look maybe a little fancier? Maybe you use a skin-on piece of chicken, you know, or even do like a whole roasted chicken kind of thing, and same sort of thing. Or is this just for your personal consumption that I'm making 3 meals for this week for lunch? You know, so that's really up to what you're doing. And if you don't like thighs because they're a little too fatty, then by all means, if you like breasts, use them. Yeah.
I think, and sometimes people are afraid to do too much with a boneless chicken breast because they're afraid it's going to dry out. I think the bone is tend to keep a little more moist when we're cooking, so it really depends.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to grill a piece of chicken, it's going to be breast, right? Beef down here. But sometimes when you're baking or when you're doing a skillet like this, the bone is suppressed there, the chicken thighs, hold in a little bit more moisture. So it's a little more.
Sorry, I just have to step away. You're probably not going to find them. You'd find them at Whole Foods, like more of like a specialty store kind, or something that carries multiple.
I think I saw them at Market 32.
Yeah, exactly. That's another. Market 32 would be another store.
Maybe not a ShopRite all the time.
Yeah, the specialty stores, you know, and if you have a tough time finding some of the grains, that's another place that I would look. I would look in a Market 32. I would look at a Whole Foods. Trader Joe's is probably another one around here that would carry that. Aldi's. Yeah, and ShopRite. I know the ShopRite in Derby and Shelton. They definitely carry a ton of products. It would be like at the one in Derby. It's where like the Bob's Red Mill products are and stuff, and they definitely have a bunch of different brands, bunch of different varieties. So, yeah. Yeah, so canola would be my first choice of maybe, if you want to categorize that as like an unhealthy or you know, that I would really and yeah, I don't want to say unhealthy because we all use a lot of canola oil. It's definitely part of, but that would be my first option towards a standard oil. But I think that's really the base start of turning a diet or being conscious about things that you use, not just things that you eat, right? So oils and cooking with oils, that would be the first step of saying, what am I putting in the pan to cook the thing I'm cooking? You know, if I had used a soybean oil and I'm trying to eat healthy, they're contradicting each other. Canola is okay. I definitely use it. I will say that I use a blend of canola and olive oil every single day in cooking. That's definitely a part of my daily life is in the restaurant business and
I do
and
something
food
similar.
service. What's
Same.
that?
I do canola and extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah, and that's kind of a standard of a good starting point would be a blended canola. And if you look at the labels, you'll see a lot of. I can't remember the name of the brand of olive oil, but the green bottle, right, with the gold label that we all know. Yeah, right. Well, if you look at that, you'll see there's 100% extra virgin olive oil, and then there's one that says extra virgin olive oil. But when you look at the ingredients, that regular extra virgin olive oil that doesn't say 100% is gonna have a blended oil in it, right? And like I talked about it before, it's about the way that they press the olives. Right, so they're going to take the first press, that's going to be your pure 100%, then it's going to get diluted because they're going to mix it, but they can still call it an olive oil until it gets to a certain percentage, and then they can't call it olive oil anymore, you know, so.
So if you're vegan and you want to substitute I'm working on being vegan, maybe tofu?
Tofu, yep. What's the other,
Tempeh.
Tempeh, thank you very much. Tempeh, tofu, and with the tofu, you know, press it. I like to use the extra firm, so you take it, press it out, you know, between a couple towels. If it gets nice and dry and you get all that extra liquid, you can marinate it, lemons, fresh herbs, the extra virgin olive oil. And it really, really adds a lot of flavor to it. You can make tofu taste like anything, any of the flavor profile, and then you eat it and you're like, wait, it's a little crunchy on the outside and it's like a little pillow in the middle. And there's been a lot of people that I've cooked for that have said, I don't know about tofu, and they're like, no, that was awesome. You know.
One of the dishes we made here was those of you are familiar with the zoodle machine where you zoodle squash and summer squash and what have you, zucchini. We did a zoodle bolognese, but it was meatless. And I'm looking at Chef Darryl, and I'm like, huh, meatless bolognese? Like, to me, I'm Italian. I'm like, bolognase's got to have meat in it, right? So, and he used cauliflower and a little bit of nut for the bite crunch with a fresh tomato sauce, and we zoodled the zucchini and the squash out, and we made it looked like a pasta dish, and then we just did the fresh sauce with the bolognese, which was the cauliflower and the walnut. I don't remember what the substitute was when we didn't use nuts, because there was someone that didn't want nuts.
I think, sure, yeah, mushrooms work. I want to say we did like a breadcrumb, if I remember right.
They gave you that mouthfeel that you wanted.
Yeah, I think it might have been panko, if I
came out
remember right.
excellent.
Yeah, I'm 100% Italian too, and I don't like the lentil, I don't like the chickpea, I don't like the whole wheat, I don't like any of those, but I will tell you this. If you get a spaghetti squash and you bake it, and you pull that spaghetti out of that squash, it's the only thing I will eat in place of pasta.
Yeah.
It is really,
Jerry,
really
come on.
good.
But Jerry, I have the black bean noodles, and I have the chickpea noodles. I mean, come on, Jerry. Come on.
Spaghetti squash is the way.
Yeah, I'll plate some up. We'll plate some up, and we'll get going. The other thing about your vegan question, you know, if you wanted to omit the protein, you can add beans as a substitute for protein. So if you wanted to do edamame, black beans, chickpeas, all those kind of things, you know, forget about the protein and add those in at the end there, as you're putting it in the oven or as you're going to finish it on the stove here, and you're still getting the protein, you know, as your supply for the day. So
Add more
it's definitely an
fiber, too.
option.
Sorry.
that?
Add more fiber too with
There.
the beans.
There you go. 100%. 100%, whatever vegetables. That would be my cooking for the day. In the perfect world, I make this dish on Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all I do is go home and cook some vegetables. You know, and whether I put them in the microwave or I put this in the saute pan and I just mix it all together, you know, that would be. I like to work a full day and then go home, and sometimes I don't want to cook it. It does happen after doing it all day. But
The trick with the veggies is to keep them all around the same size. Right? You want to keep them in a cube so they cook evenly the same way. That's one of the other things. One of the other features we do is when chefs cooking is we'll do a roast vegetable, and we talk about the importance of roasting it at a certain temperature so the natural sugars come out and it caramelizes over the vegetable. But they all have to be the same size. You don't, sometimes when we're rushing and we're not paying attention, we're sloppily cutting things a little bit bigger, and then you're getting that vegetable. One of them bites, it's like, well, that's a little al dente, that's a little hard, and the other ones are, getting to be cooked well. So that's another important piece that I take for granted all the time. So I think what Chef Mike's going to do is we're going to start breaking that dish down a little bit so we can have you guys taste it and give us your feedback. Okay? In the meantime, I'm going to hand out this little kind of
But
preset. And there is the
as the
hydration station and coffee back
tilt
there.
it a little
Some
bit.
of you have already got
Look
it.
at me.
That's gonna give us just
Good.
let's give us a minute while we-
I can talk while you do that. So I wanted to talk about these containers. I like the idea of meal prepping. You could get these containers on Amazon for like $20, all the different sizes. So then you do it on Sunday, you meal prep, you're cutting your vegetables, you're cooking your grains, and then you just have it during the week to just do the pot meals. I gotta find the link for these, if anyone's interested. Does anyone meal prep at home? That's how I grocery shop. I like plan, because I'll just buy everything at the grocery store. I'll plan, I'll write everything down, and then I'll prep on Sundays. Like, I'll cut my onions, I'll cut my garlic, and I'll put them in these containers. And I'll just have everything ready. Because it's true, I do not want to cook after work every day.
this over here and just start
Start
scooping
spooning
them
it a
out.
little out?
Yeah. I got it right there, man. That's slotted. That's slotted. No, 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 no.
Last dietitian I met with, she was Googling from the office with me. I was like,
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's good. I have another one in there ready to go. That chicken. Yeah, 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 yeah.